Hello and welcome to the channel. Today we'll be taking a good look at the Granular engine inside the Elektron Tonverk. We'll be going through all of the different functions. We'll be looking at the density, size, position, etc. You have two screens here. We'll go through all of this. We'll also have a look at external modulation using LFOs, and finally we'll introduce a few effects, see what we can get out of those grains ultimately. So let's start off. I have here just a very low tempo. I think I'm at 30 BPM yet, just to show you some of the features. We've got some quarter notes playing here. Now the first one I think we better get to quite quickly is the tuning here. We can tune this grain. I have a single grain at the moment playing. We can tune it, or we can hold down function and we can move in octaves. Here we have -2, -1. We'll leave it on 2 at the moment. What I'm using as a sample source, this might be of interest to you as well, I'm actually using wavetables. So I have this one here. On a D we can load in wavetables. I have a wavetable loaded in here, and that's what I'll be using for this demonstration. I say the advantage is pitch, really. Put anything you like in here, vocals, you name it, can go in here. Okay, so the first one is the tuning. The second one is the density. Now this defines how often grains are played and the spacing between them. We only have one grain here, so that's not going to do a lot at the moment. Then we have size, which goes down to about, I believe 10 milliseconds in the manual. We can take this right down to very sort of bursts of grains, or we can go all the way back up and play about a 2-second snippet of the sound. I think maybe now's the time to just hop ahead before we get onto the bottom row. We'll just hop in here and just introduce another grain. Now each grain, here you can see the amount here, this is where the grains are added. Each grain has the possibility of being activated by, we can have eight grains effectively. One voice activates 8 grains. So you have 64 grains that are possible on the Granular engine. Anyway, let's introduce the second one. Now we have our 2 grains playing. So we're in the random mode here, which basically means that we have a random generation of the grains, at least their position in a small area of the sample. We have 2 at the moment, so they're not in sync or anything like that. They're randomly positioned. Okay, but with these 2 we can look at the rest of the functions. The next one we have is the position. This defines, effectively, you can see this dotted line moving around. This defines where the samples start from when they're triggered. So every time they're triggered here by these quarter notes, you'll get grains coming out from this line. They'll then loop round the wave table. Okay, so we can move this back. We can move it with a function if we want to go a bit faster through the wave, so we can move that around quickly. Then we have the scan. Now this defines in which direction and the speed of the grain, the speed and direction of the grain. So if we go into a positive value, then they'll move forward, and negative, they'll move backwards. And we can see this if we just reduce the size of our grains a little bit. We'll start to see them moving backwards now. Adjust our density a little bit as well. Move them around apart. Okay, so this is the scan. We go positive. We start to move it at different rates forward. Okay, let's say we're just working with these 2 grains at the moment. Let's leave it on that. And then we have the spread. Now this works with position. these two work in harmony effectively, and they add a randomness to the grain start position. So if we have this at 0, then let's maybe move the position out a little bit. If we have this at 0, then all the grains will start from here. The more we introduce of spread, then the greater chance we have of them starting in different positions in the sample. So if we put this on 127, we'll see that they're starting, these two grains are starting all at random positions within, let's turn this down a little. So they now start at random positions. We can set them back to start at the defined start position, or we can have them randomized. Okay, the final one we have, let's put those back, is the pan. And this just moves each grain to a different position in the panorama. Right, so these are the controls we have on the front panel. Then if we go to the second screen, we've mentioned the amount. We can introduce grains here, reduce them. I'll leave it on 2 for now. Then we have a direction for the playback of the grains. At the moment they're playing forward. We set this in the middle. They'll play in both directions. And finally, if we go into reverse, I might have to turn off the scan here actually, so that we can see that. What have we got here? Okay, it's a bit tricky to demonstrate, but effectively they are playing backwards now. And then we have here an envelope, a way to shape the sound playback. We can, in this triangular position, it's the most balanced, but we can, if we wanted to, we could have a shape like this, and then we can smooth this out, introduce a long release. So we can basically make envelope shapes if we want a large attack. And if we set this to 127, set that one to 127, we get a smooth playback with a sharp cut off at the end. We can play with this so we can have a smooth attack to get rid of glitches or pops or whatever. And we can also play with the release time. So you can set these up in multiple ways. The 12764, I believe, is the center. That's this sort of balance position as they explained in the manual. Okay, so that gives us control over how each individual grain is played back. What else do we have? Then we have the different modes here. At the moment I'm in a random mode, and we can see the playback here. Now this affects the density. Well, sorry, it's affected by density because the density defines the level, the probability of a grain being played. So if we reduce this right down, we'll have no grains played. But as we increase the probability, then we'll start to get grains being introduced to affect the sample. So this is probability here when we are in this random mode here. Let's move this up a little bit. Okay, the next mode we have is the sync mode. We go to sync now. And this means that the grains are effectively synced to BPM. So this here defines the frequency of the grains being played back. So we can drop it right down. We can introduce a higher rate. Let's perhaps get our grains going the other direction now, just for the sake of it. Okay, so there we go. So here we can increase how often our grains are shot out. Up to sort of crazy levels. Okay, that's the frequency there. That's with the sync, and that's synced to tempo. Then the final mode we have is the oscillator mode. And the way this works, we have a chance of effectively overlapping the grains. If we have this set to 0 in our density, then we have a complete overlap. And let's see if we can get this moving a little bit better. Maybe increase the size a little. So now we have the grains, and they're overlapping when they play back. So you can hear the two grains. As we adjust this, we change this balance. If we go to 64, we can hop to it. Then effectively we have a 50% overlap of the grains. If we go to 127, then they're playing one after each other. Let's see if we can do it a bit slower. Might hear it. See the grain on the top. And so they're playing now one after each other. And if we go down here to 0, then they play together. And between these two, you then have the balance. You can mix them together effectively. Okay, so those are the functions, the basic functions of the grainer. Let's have a look what's possible then with some modulation. Well, let's have a look at some examples, see what we can get out of it now. If we want to modulate this, perhaps we want to modulate this start position. Let's set this to the center. And we'll go here to our LFO, and we'll select our source as a position. Yep. And then we can add here, well, I'll set this up for a 4-bar. So we'll set the speed to 16. And we'll set the multi to 8, and that will give us the 4-bar cycle of the LFO. And if we introduce some depth now, we're now modulating. You don't see it's not animated, but we're modulating this start position here. Now, we don't have any panning on it. Oh, we have a little bit of panning. Turn that down a little. Now we've got that modulating. Let's see what we can do with the size. Just play around a little bit. Perhaps we want to modulate the density now. And perhaps we want to change this from oscillator mode to random again. So we can assign a second LFO here. We'll go to our second LFO and we'll assign that to the density. We've got it here. And then we'll set this also to run over 4 bars. So we set this to 16, this one to 8. And we'll introduce the depth. And now we'll have this slow, no grains, rapid amount of grains. We can change this again. Let's go back here. Maybe we'll drop the the depth down a little bit. We don't need it so high. And we go back here, which set the density to the center. So we'll have this continuous variation between more grains coming through and less grains coming through. And we're modulating the start position. Let's have a look what else we can do then. We go to, I think we can introduce some filter here. I had a little bit of filter on it. All different types. Some reverb. And off you go. So there's some spread, and you're quickly lost in a world of grains and granular music. Now we could put an effect on here if we want. Let's see what we have. Let's try the CHRONO PITCH. So we have something that's in tune. So we can add this one. So let's see what we can set this to. Set this into a 7th maybe. A little bit less. So there are many things that are possible. We've not really got into the effect. I'm not going to go too deep into the effects. Maybe we'll change our filter type back again. Okay. As I say, we're working now with 2 grains. Perhaps we'll introduce a couple more just to really push it. And we'll make this a little bit here. And what can we go back to here? All kinds of fun to be had here, so I hope this has been useful anyway, give you an understanding of what you can do with Granular. Tonverk had a bit of a rough start, got a lot of knocks, but I think it's coming on. It's quite a nice instrument now. I mean, I've got no affiliations with Elektron, but I find myself really enjoying using it these days. Anyway, I hope it's been useful to somebody, and take care. And perhaps see you in the next one. Thank you.